Good morning. I'm audible and visible. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, we'll wait 2-3 minutes. Good morning, good morning. Perfect, Takdis. Happy Diwali to all of you. Happy Diwali. Anjali, you'll get it in the weekly test. On the Saturday, Sunday, what the test would have been uploaded would have been that only, right? Okay, Vijay. Okay. How many days should we take? Aishwarya, the more you will do it, the more quickly you will finish it. First division may take 10 days, then it will take 5 days, then it will take 3 days. It's like that. You can see these lines, right? These lines you can see. Yeah, so what is my, it's taking my touch. That is why I'm asking. Okay, as it is, we have to wait. There's a button here which is not working. Abhijit, don't trust TV programs. Told Buddhism. I'll talk about that, Nagaraja. Uh-huh. Good morning, good morning. We are waiting and I have to sort this issue out. It's taking accidental touch. So I may need to change the studio. It should work with this, but it's also working with this. Okay, I'll get the studio changed. Meanwhile, we can. Uh, it will take us 2 minutes whilst we set up it there. But yeah, studied administration Vedic age was same as early Vedic. Sure, Abhijit. The point is that later Vedic period it didn't really matter that which Ganakula because the Rajan appropriated all power, so it was not that important. That if these institutions existed or not, they would have, but got diluted in a way. Good morning. Good morning. Uh, Kishan, I have not gone through my email. Yes, we will. Will you teach at not obviously just be not at optional level. Nitya, the class is running. This Wacom is taking my touch input, and I should be able to switch it off. That I'm not able to. I'm getting changed. R.S. Sharma, you can skip. You can skip. Acha. I'm just muting and what we call as removing my picture. I'll be there in the next studio. Give me 2 minutes. Okay, right. Now we can start. So our journey, I'm audible and visible, no issues, no one. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Ilma, that may have been the fact that it was a weekend of festivals. Maybe the weekly test is not opening for that reason. I'll get it sorted. If you're pointing it out, I'll get it sorted. French Revolution, why are you asking me here? The French Revolution attracted bourgeoisie who had money but no social mobility. Same Buddhism, Jainism. But you're talking about two different periods. Don't try to find parallels like this. It doesn't work like that. French Revolution is happening in 1789. This is 600 BC. Different world. And bourgeoisie, the words are not going to work here. Okay. Kishan will talk about that also when we'll talk about Dhamma. Okay. Now, see, last week where we stopped, we basically created the pretext or the context in which Buddhism, Jainism emerged. And we understood two basic concepts that there was frustration amongst the second and the third Varna. One had power but had no status, and the third had a lot of wealth, again, no social mobility. So, the fact is that there's a frustration which is building up within a certain section of the society, and they also do not like the path which the Vedic Brahmanistic thought is telling us, which is basically to go for what we call as ritual and sacrifice, so as to go out further to go into very socially exclusionary, but also very expensive rituals and sacrifices. And the last thing which Buddhism, Jainism would itself argue was that because of the 6th century BCE, a lot of what we call as dynamism and a lot of wealth generation, all that would in turn lead to what we call today as a problem of morality. There's a lot of moral degeneration, there's a lot of problems vis-a-vis how people are looking at sorrow, this and that. So one thing is very clear, that Buddhism, Jainism did not rose out of a random need for a religion. Vedic Brahmanism was the one within its inception in the later Vedic period. Within 4 to 500 years of its existence, it has already created a little bit of issues within the society. And therefore, the inception in 1000 BCE and to 600 BCE, there was a need for a new outlook in that regard. And this is where the Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivikism comes in. Now, I hope you remember this part, which is the frustration part, the Vedic Brahmanistic part, and the constituency part. Where do they get the constituency out of? What is the context in which they rise? Right? Okay. Now, the first religion, however, to rise out of this transaction, the frustration plus the concept of what we today call as materialism plus path, the first religion which comes out is not Buddhism or Jainism. Is a religion called, started as a small, very small group of saints cult, and then it will become bigger as a religion. Is Ajivikism. Ajivikas or Ajivikism. We use the word, both words are used. Ajivika are an interesting set of what we call as personalities or saints, because they directly refute the authority of the Vedas, and they say that the Vedas are not our text. We reject the Vedas in that regard. And there was a person called Makhali Gosala. Makhali Gosala, born in a Goshala, that is why he's named as Makhali Gosala. He developed a new path. He developed a new path. And whilst Vedic Brahmanism argued that an individual can change his fate, or what we call as path towards salvation or moksha, Ajiviks are very, very interesting in what they try to say. They say that everything is predetermined in what they call as niyati or predestination or destiny. What the Ajiviks would argue is that there is no point in doing anything, because if you are destined to get salvation and moksha, you will get it automatically. That is their understanding. That if it is not in your niyati, you will not get it. If it is in your niyati, you will get it. Now, as much as it is a little bit of a problematic aspect when it comes to saying that nobody has no agency, that you as an individual has no power itself, imagine what they're doing to Vedic Brahmanistic understanding. That a Vedic Brahmanistic or a Brahmin is sitting there and doing multiple yagna, and now a saint comes and says that whatever you do, you can't change your fate. If you are predestined to get moksha, you will get it. If you don't, or if you are not predestined to do it, you will basically not do it, or you will not get it. And very simply, their solution was give up everything, go into the forest, and wait for the last day to come. When there will be no attachment, maybe you will get niyati. So the point is, for them, they basically are not very nuanced vis-a-vis actually saying anything about human action. Now understand this point further. That they were prescribed by two very important kings. They were prescribed by two very, very important kings, and one being Chandragupta Maurya initially, and then he's going to become a Jain, and most important, Ashoka. Ashoka, before converting to Buddhism, or rather adopting Buddhism, going towards Dhamma, was an Ajivik. And the point is, political leaders like Ajivikism to some level for one simple, straightforward reason. When you are a political leader, you would have to do violence. You will kill people. And when you're going to kill people, you have to have a justification for that. So under Ajivikism, you are predestined to do it. In a way, You had no control in not doing it. Try to understand the circular logic here. That I killed in war 50,000 people, but how can I change that because I was predetermined to do it? So if it was in my niyati to do it, so basically I'm getting a justification for my action through through the concept of niyati. So the point about Ajivikas is that they started as a sect, small group, under the leadership of a person called Makhali Gosala. Father Makhani, mother Bhada comes in the standard concept itself. Yes, best for Kshatriyas that ways. And their central belief is that absolutely everything is predetermined by fate or niyati. Hence, human action has no consequence, one way or the other. They wear no clothes, lived in as ascetic monks in small groups. The sect reached its peak during rather under Ashoka's father Bindusara's time, and thereafter Ashoka himself. So Bindusara never converted; he was till the end an Ajivik. On the other hand, Ashoka later adopted Buddhism. Chandragupta Maurya initially an Ajivik was a Jain later. So understand, ascetic means a person who gives up everything. Saint. Now, please understand this point that we already can see a very interesting streak in these religions that they are justifying the actions of the people who are there actually trying to cater to. So we know the frustration, we understand the path, we understand the issues in Vedic Brahmanism. Ajivikism comes in and says that don't have to worry, everything you are doing is already predetermined. So you can't stop that. So for a class which has been or for a varna which has been given the mandate to kill, it is a very good understanding because it does not give you guilt because you are predetermined to do it. And what is the solution? Sit and wait for the day to come. On the day of judgment, if you get your moksha, you get it. You don't get it, you don't get it. So according to a Najivik, if you go and ask him that will I clear UPSC, he will straightforward say, if it is in your niyati and fate to get it, you will get it. If not, you will won't get it. So they are not very complicated in a way. So their basic concept, you need to know the word niyati. Niyati is the word anywhere you see fate, niyati, destiny, predestination, you have to associate it with Ajiviks. Are we clear with regards to Ajiviks? Yes? Ajiviks are not very complicated. They're very straightforward. As it is, you're looking for these keywords in the examination. Now, we move to the most popular, whatever is written is niyati will happen, yes. Basically, human action has no consequence or nothing. Now, the most important concept which we have to understand is Buddhism and Jainism. The most popular out of these two was Buddhism. Jainism is a little bit hard to follow. Buddhism was very, very popular that way. And there are 2-3 things which you need to understand before we start Buddhism. First is that you don't basically have to do a thesis on Buddhism. Because a lot of students, what they do is that they become emotional in these two topics for sure, Buddhism and Jainism, which is that they want to understand the philosophy. But understand this point that you're trying to understand the religion. And understanding religion, there is a whole Buddhist studies department in University of Delhi. So firstly, we need to draw a line till which point it is okay to understand Buddhism. Second is, don't ask me if it works or not, because I don't care. UPSC likes this topic, I'm doing it. If it actually works or not, does not work, this part, that part, no, this is not Asta channel. It is not my job to explain to you how the philosophy would work. I'm just telling you straightforward, this is the concept. It is going to work, not your problem. We are going to just understand the core philosophy, and what is more important in Buddhism is is core philosophy. Thereafter, we have the concept of councils and the different types of Buddhism, which is Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayanic, and what we call as Theravada. Over and above that, we also need to know the Bodhisattvas. So there is a lot of facts to be done here and terms which are there, but we don't have to complicate it by trying to understand that does the eightfold path actually work in this and that. Jain philosophy is a little bit more difficult than Buddhism. That is why it was not very prescribed by a lot of leaders, but was very, very apt for the mercantile community because of the fact that it prescribed not a lot of violence and it was about doing your own job. We'll discuss that. So understand this point very clearly that you don't need to do a thesis. Buddhist literature, I will do with you in art and culture. This is basically an art and culture, but because religion, you can't understand anything further. This is one module which is there in ancient, which is basically an art and culture module, wherein we are trying to understand Buddhism and Jainism. And once we are done with this, we'll go back to Alexander's invasion and the concept of political rather than religious. So we'll keep it very straightforward and simple, and we will understand the philosophy in its face value. I will explain other things to you which are important. Other than that, we are not here to find meaning in life through understanding Buddhism and Jainism. Another same topics like six schools of philosophy, which students do. Again, they are trying to find a lot of meaning. Don't look for meaning in this. Just look for question and answers which you have to get in the examination. Right? Okay. You will always get at least 1 to 2 questions. Time to time, one question for sure will come. Buddhism, Jainism is a very favorite topic of the UPSC. For the past 1 year or 2 years, they have not given it, but previously, at least one question for sure. Okay. Okay. Kishan, I don't know what you're asking me. Many times mess it up with contemporary events. So should I relate with map? If you, firstly, we are talking about ancient India. So don't try to bring in contemporary events. Other than that, how does a map help you? I don't know in that answering that. Okay, can we say humans are not any power in common point within? Can we say that humans are not having any power in the common point within? No, that is not true. Vedic Brahmanism says do a yagya and everything will be fine. Ajivik says that is not important. They say nothing you can do can change anything. So Vedic Brahmanism, there is a certain sense of change which you can bring in punya, wherein you can go for moksha. Ajivik say if it is not there, it is not there. Okay. One says do humans, others say you can do nothing. Again, I do not. I saw. Can you say that humans are uncommon? One says do humans, others say. Again, that part, wait, say I'm not able to understand what you mean by that. Will we study religious part of Buddhists? Why Buddhism is religion, so obviously we're doing religion only. What is the religious part of Buddhism? Too much sweets last night. A lot of you are in high on sweets. Diwali. Type properly. Half sentences you are sending me. Moksha means you come out of the concept of birth, rebirth. The soul has been eternally given this aspect, if not intervened, that it will be born, it will then spend a lifetime, then be reborn into another body. So it keeps on changing body. Moksha is when the soul gets salvation or soul gets nirvana, that it is able to be, it has been given to us by God and it becomes part of God. That is a big core aspect of moksha. Okay. I mean social. Will we study social part of Buddhism? Now I don't understand what that means. ऐसा qualify करके लिख दो, write it a little bit better. Please. Okay. Now I want your concentration. Ajiviks is done. Niyati word you see Ajiviks. Ajivikism as it is, we have not got a question. Now let's talk about Buddhism, the most popular religion at this point of time. So Buddhism is related to a person called Siddhartha or Siddhartha, later named as Buddha. Now, it's not that Siddhartha was born into a very, what we call as a poor family. He was born to a Kshatriya, to a king, Sudodana and Maya. And when Buddha was born, now I'm telling you his life story. How does Buddha become Buddha? Everything is given the PPT, but still listen to. So Buddha was, when he was born, a Brahmin saw Buddha and said that he has 32 markers on his body, which can be an indicator of two things, which is that he can be a world conqueror or he can be a world renunciant, which is renunciant means who gives up everything. So he can either be a world conqueror or he can be a world renunciant or renunciation of every worldly things. Now, if you are Sudodan, a Kshatriya ruler, what would you expect your son to be? I don't know what these 32 markers are. I don't care. So listen to the story. Don't look for meaning in it. So you would like your son to be the world conqueror, obviously. You won't like him to be world renunciant. So now Sudodhan asks the Brahmin that how can I make sure that he does not become a world renunciant? And the Brahmin says that don't expose him to sorrow, don't expose him to issues, don't expose him to the worldly issues, and he will then try to preserve the comfort world which he lives around. So Sudodhan made sure that Buddha, at a very young age, at Siddhartha when he was, at a very young age, from a very young age till his teenage years, he was in a lot of comfort. He never left the palace. Anything and everything what he wanted was given to him. He was in a lot of comfort. And therefore, what Sudodhan wanted to do was that he wanted to get Siddhartha attached to this comfort so that he tries to expand it more, and that would in turn make him a world conqueror. However, Buddha was not, or rather, Siddhartha was not very happy. He had everything, still, he was not very, very happy. And um, at the age of 29-30, he gets a world changing moment, or his own understanding changes because of something he sees on the street. So, on one fateful night, whilst on his balcony, Buddha saw four things, and that will change his life forever. First, he saw an old man, then, he saw a sick man, and thereafter, he saw, fourth thing I will tell you later, thereafter, he saw a corpse, or what we call as dead body. Now, when Buddha sees these three things, something comes in his mind. And what comes in his mind is that what does this comfort mean to me? What does all this money mean to me? Because it can't stop these three things from happening in that sense. Buddha sees the old man and sees that I can have multiple trillions of dollars, money, whatever it may be, but I can't stop aging. Which is that nothing can stop your body from disintegrating. Nothing can stop you from aging. You can delay it, but you will age for sure, and your body is perishable. So the first thing which he sees is that what is the point of money when you can't stop aging? When you can't stop aging. Then he saw the sick man, and therein his understanding was that even if I have lakhs of money, if there's a disease which I am going to get, I will get it for sure. In this, COVID-19 was a very good example. Be it the poor or be it the extremely rich, it did not do any form of discrimination. It impacted everyone equally. Maybe the rich may have been separated from it, but it did impact them also. And that is why the best example would be that the biggest impact of COVID 19 was in Europe or in America, very rich countries, very developed countries. So Buddha is arguing two very interesting things, that whatever money he has in front of himself, whatever comfort he has in front of himself, can it stop the process of aging? Can it stop the process of being sick? You can have, if you have been diagnosed with something which is incurable, you can have the whole world wealth in the world itself. You can be the president of the USA, but it can not stop. And last, what he sees is a dead body, which is death. Now, the question which comes to, or is a very important truth about life, is the only thing which is guaranteed in life is death. I cannot guarantee to you anything, that what will you get in life, what will you eat, or will this happen or not. I can guarantee you one thing, that we all die, that we all will die for sure. So the only truth of life, the ultimate truth of life, and the non-changing truth of life, which is guaranteed to happen, is death. So now Buddha questions his own comfort, his own money, in the sense that if I can't stop death, if I can't stop myself from becoming sick, if I can't stop myself from aging, then what is the point of this money? And the last thing which he saw was a solution for all of this, which was a monk or saint, ascetic, whatever you want to call. For him, if you give up everything, now he's basically now talking like a renunciant. If you give up on everything, your sorrow will be over, and then you can concentrate on death and making sure that the soul which you have is going to come out of this misery called the cycle of birth and rebirth. So Buddha's encounter with these four things changed his life. He was destined to be a world renunciant and not a world conqueror. And he will take his horse Kanthanka and run away from the palace itself. And he will join five, or rather four, ascetics. He joined four ascetics or four monks. And these four monks for him was the solution. But these monks had a problem. The problem was they argued that if you have to get moksha, you give up on food also. You give up on food also. What if someone feels sorrow after giving up everything? That is called Maya. That you are attached to something so much, that is why you don't give up on things. But the more you will be attached to things, the more you will be. So the fact is that if you're attached to things, worldly things, your soul will for sure not go somewhere, because it will come back to what it wants. So you cleanse your soul of the desire to hold on to worldly things and look for the other world. So this concept of happiness and sorrow is linked to the fact that we are materialistic. If you get material things, but material things end. You can have an n number amount of money, but it can end. So sorrow and happiness based on material things is already very shallow, which is the world today in that regard. Fourth was his solution, which changed his mind. Now these monks had a very simple concept that they will not eat food also. So according to them, meditating without food, giving up everything, will basically give you the path, the truth, because they are looking for a path to salvation. They don't know it. They want enlightenment. They want that eureka moment in which they start to understand what life is, how to go forward. So now Buddha joins the monks, but the problem is that he is not able to concentrate. Without food, he is not able to concentrate, and these monks can see that Buddha is distracted. So very ominously, it is believed that Buddha was basically trying to meditate under a certain tree, and there was a lady called Sujata, very important in Buddhist philosophy, who saw Buddha meditating, and she thought that he's a tree god or something. It's a very simple, straightforward monk. So she makes kheer, and she sends the kheer across the river for Buddha to eat. And it is believed that Buddha, after starving for at least multiple 15 to 20 days, had that kheer and that offering from Sujata. And that has been seen as a moment in which Buddha was now, in a way, fulfilled. And after eating the kheer of Sujata, he now sat under the banyan tree, which is basically the Bodhi tree, and he will start to meditate. However, when the other monks saw Buddha eating, they said that he's not a serious aspirant, not a very disciplined aspirant, and they left him. They're like, he is not serious, he can't manage what he needs to manage, and therefore he left him. They left him, all four left him. So, not a serious aspirant. Now, after having Sudata's kheer, after having his teachers left him, he will now start to concentrate and meditate. And this is the moment in which he will go into very, what we call as, deep meditative state, and he will find the truth, what are called the four noble, yes, payasam or kheer, yes, rice, milk, and sugar. Four noble truth, four noble truth, and he will get what is called as the eightfold path to salvation, which is called the Ashtanga Marga, which we'll discuss. Now, ironically, Buddha will go to the same monks who had left him, and the first sermon, the first teaching which he gave was to these four only. So the teacher became the student, and the student became the teacher. And the moment when he gave his first sermon, his first lecture, is called the Dhamma Chakra Parivartana. See, there's a Sanskrit word called dharma, what you need to do. And the Prakrit word for that is Dhamma. So Dhamma means dharma only. So Dhamma Chakra Parivartan is only the concept of the wheel of dharma had turned because the enlightened one was born. Siddhartha had now become Buddha. Now, this is basically the story of Buddhism. What Buddhism would argue, how Buddha became what he became. Now, there are multiple versions of this. There are multiple concepts in this, and Buddhist literature varies from region to region. Now, this is the simple point you need to understand how Buddha became what he was. I am unable to understand how, if Buddha had attained salvation, how they can called for sermon. Buddha ate the kheer. Yes, he ate the kheer. Khaya उसने. Ilma, what you mean to say is that if he had attained salvation, he did not attain salvation. He attained the truth. How to attain salvation? He will get nirvana and moksha when he will die. But he now knew the path to moksha. I understand this point. It's an alternative path to moksha which they found. See, to be very objective here, and it's a they called sacrifice and rituals. They needed to be different. And that path was what was given by Buddha. Now, did it give moksha or not? Nobody knows. Because when you die, you can't tell people what you got. So, if it works or not, as I told you, is not the question here. Enlightenment, what he gets is not called the moment he gets the enlightenment is not called nirvana or moksha. It's called dhamma chakra parivartan. He attains the truth, not moksha. He does not die at that point of time. Siddhartha is given the Buddha name by others. Obviously, he will not call himself Buddha. Others will call him Buddha. So please understand this point. It's not a very difficult story. It's a very straightforward story. Very straightforward story. Story is what? Born at Lumbini, which is in Nepal today. Siddhartha was the son of Sudodhan and Maya, and he's from a Shakya clan of Kshatriyas. Clan means a group of or a subgroup within the Kshatriyas. Siddhartha will then marry Yashodhara and will also have a son called Rahula. At the age of 29, he will then look at the old man, sick man, corpse, and renunciant. He will leave his house and wander for 6 years with his other ascetic or the other monks in that regard, seeking the truth. Under the Sal people tree, he will attain enlightenment after eating the kheer of Sujata. And he will give his first sermon at Sarnath to the same ascetics who had left him. This moment is called Dhamma Chakra Parivartan or Dharma Chakra Parivartan, the wheel of Dharma changing. And from between this point, when he attains enlightenment and he dies at the age of 18 Kusinagar, he will spread Buddhism in the core Mahajanpada area. This is the concept. But understand this point, when Buddha will be alive, that religion is still evolving. When he will die, religion starts to get institutionalized, which we'll discuss. What this Sangha does. So, the birth of Buddhism, in a way, is yes, Sarnath. Birth of Buddha is Lumbini. Right? Okay. After 4 then him again meditated why they attained the truth. Again, Ilma, you're trying to find logic in this story. And to be very honest, you will not find it. After 4 monks left him, then again they meditate. Then he meditated, by which they attained the truth. Not they, it's not a group activity. Buddha was not able to concentrate previously in meditating. He will meditate alone after eating Sujata's kheer. Everybody's left him. He attains enlightenment. But as I said, nobody's asking you this story. And don't look for logic in this story. Are we clear with regards to the genesis of Buddhism or Buddha's story in that regard? How did Buddha become Buddha? He attained enlightenment not at the age of 29. 6 years he's wandered. So 35, 36. Again, nobody's asking you the age at which he got it. Because age is a relative term right now. Can I now talk about Buddhist philosophy? If we are clear about Buddhist understanding. Okay. And I'm telling you right now, please don't try to, find logics in this or try to figure it out, because people have been trying to figure it out for centuries now. So take it on face value. We have to just answer questions in the UPSC. Our enlightenment and our nirvana comes when we clear the examination. So our moksha is that only. So I don't care if what I'm going to say further is actually going to work or not. Okay. No, they'll not ask you chronological order of places here, but as it is, the places are going to be straightforward. Lumbini, he'll be born. Sarnath first sermon, die at Kushinagar, chronological order automatically. Okay. Till become Buddha, only Sujata didn't play important role for that. Only Sujata is part of that story for giving kheer. But again, don't get obsessed with Sujata. Palak, 30 minutes you want me to repeat straightforward. All of it is that Buddha became Buddha after eating Sujata's kheer and meditating, becoming enlightened one. First sermon at Sarnath, and he is become the world renunciate. Okay. Now, now there are basic things, that there are three words or there are certain terminologies which are used for Buddhism, and you need to know those words. For example, what are called the three ratnas of Buddhism. Three ratnas means three ratans or three jewels of Buddhism. And the three ratnas plus this concept of the Atriya Sachais, four noble truth. This can come in the examination. That they can ask you, consider the following four options, which are the part of the three ratnas of Buddhism, because the three ratnas of Jainism also. And what is the four noble truths? This can be in a way asked. So the three ratnas is very straightforward. It's not very difficult to understand. They have not asked it, but there are terminologies which can be asked directly. So one is Buddha. Basically, Ratanas mean three pillars. So the first pillar is straightforward, Buddha himself. Second pillar is Buddha's teaching. Third pillar is the Sangha. This is going to be important. Sangha means the monastic order. The monastic order which comes into existence after him. Wherein Sangha is the fact that when he is alive, he has followers. When he dies, his followers become a institutionalized religion. And those people together are called Sangha. Sangha are the monks and the people who are following Buddha. So basically, Buddha and his teaching are the basis. Sangha takes the Buddhist teaching forwards. Now, what are the four noble truths which basically Buddha got? The first is that he recognized that there is suffering, there is dukh. And the second truth what he got to know, now they don't seem as truths but very obvious truths. There is suffering and there is a cause for that, which is samudaya. And the third truth is that this can be removed, that this cause can be removed. But the real truth which he found was his eightfold path. How can it be removed? Through the Ashtang Marga. The Ashtang Marga. If you follow the eightfold path, then you will for sure attain moksha. So the concept of Buddhism basically revolves around the concept of Ashtanga Marg. The philosophy is the Ashtanga Marg. Now, what is this Ashtanga Marg? What is the Eightfold Path? According to Buddha, if you have the following 8 characteristics in your livelihood, you will very simply attain moksha. Notice one thing, that all of this is hypothetical, and it's not about doing sacrifices and rituals. Understand this point. This alternative path which they're giving is very simply can be followed by monks, but they would have to follow it in a very serious way, but can also be followed by other people, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. They can follow it, and they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to give anything to anybody. It's about outlook. It's about outlook. Please correct the spelling. It is Maga as Marg. Now again, Nagaraja, I don't know if you are a specialist of Prakrit language or not. Marg is a Sanskrit word. Maga is the Prakrit word for it. So ये गलत नहीं है, ये सही है. So if you are a specialist, sure, I would like to have your opinion about it. If not, it's the right spelling. So these are not terms in Sanskrit. Sanskrit was the language of Vedic Brahmanism. That is why they went towards Pali or Prakrit. And Buddhism used Prakrit quite a lot, which are the what are called the dialects of Prakrit and Pali, which are lower Polchal vernaculars related to Sanskrit. So don't worry about that. Okay. Now, yeah, the language of the common people, yes. Now, how do you get salvation? How do you get salvation? You get salvation by having the right view. The right view. It's very open-ended, as you can see. The right view, which is that when you look when you look towards others, when you look towards yourself, this right here is based on the concept of good, to do good for others. So right view is that you look it towards others and in your life in a good way, that you want to do good things for them. Then right intention, which is that the first 4, which is visa, view, intention, speech, and action, are related to each other. That you should have the right view, right intention, right speech, and right action. Because a lot of you and a lot of people in this world have a contradiction in between these things. They would have the right intention, right view, but they will speak in a different way. They will have the right speech, they will have the right intention, but it will come to act, they will act in the wrong way. So there needs to be a certain intersection in your outlook, wherein your actions should also show in your speech, should show also in your intention and in your view, that you want to do good for people, right for the people. Right is very important. But thereafter, you should have also the right livelihood, which is that you could have right view, intention, speech, and action, and then you could be a dacoit, or could be a thug, or a murderer. If your livelihood is to rob people, then all of these 4 makes no sense. That I have right action also, I have right speech also, but I'm a thief. Then these 2 are very interesting, which is right effort and right mindfulness, which is most of you have the intention also, action also, speech also, view also, but your efforts are in the wrong direction. Your efforts should be about doing good for people, because you can have the right livelihood also, but your actions could, or your efforts could be in the wrong direction. For that you need Buddha, who will tell you what is the right direction. Mindfulness means thinking. That you think in the right way also. And you can translate all of this together and meditate in what is called right samadhi. Samadhi means right meditative position. And if you are meditating, it should be in the right sense, right outlook. So understand this point, that these are very vague concepts. And who defines right and wrong is already something very subjective. But these together were the view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and samadhi or meditative position, whatever you want to use it. The point is, when you sit to meditate, you concentrate on it, and you concentrate on making sure that if any of them is not working, you make it work. So very simply, Ashtang Marg is his way of getting moksha. If Vedic Brahmanism says ritual and sacrifices, he says Ashtang Marg. So very simply, the world may or may not follow what he's saying. At that point of time, there are people who are not doing it. Today, as it is not relevant or irrelevant, but it is not my task to tell you the philosophical meaning of this. The simple point is, in the examination, you should be able to identify the Ashtang marks. So we have discussed in a way the core philosophy of Buddhism, which is the three ratnas, or the three jewels, or three ratnas. We've also discussed four noble truths. And last but not the least, we discussed the eightfold path. Are we clear with regards to these three concepts? Yes? There's nothing very difficult here. It's all straightforward things. Yes? Okay. Now, four noble truth is that there is dukh. There is a reason for that. You can remove it. How can you remove it? Eightfold path. Okay. Now there are certain terminologies which you again need to know. Buddhist terminologies in art and culture also we will discuss, but certain terminologies you need to know. What is the reason for dukh? Chituri, that is the point of that whole the conversation. Reason for dukh would be worldly possessions, UPSC examination, parental pressure, whatever you want to say. दुख खत्म ही नहीं होता यूपीएससी में. So what is the reason for dukh? It is the worldly possessions. The point is this only. So your dukh could be different from someone else, and most probably we all chase career, aspirations, money, house, car, and then Buddha will come and say, in the end, nothing matters, because only when you give up these things, then only you can get what we call as salvation. So, according to Buddhism, you are sad because you are looking for the wrong things. Therein comes the concept of right view. If you will only seek money throughout your life, you will only end up getting a lot of money, but then being attached to that money and then not getting nirvana. This is very heavy philosophy. It's very big things. It's very easy for Buddha to say and very hard for people to follow today. So right now you don't have an option to take a horse and run away and then start to meditate. So what you get, what you get. These are things. See, for us, why Buddhism is important, why UPSC wants you to understand it, it's an alternative. It's an alternative. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to Vedic Brahmanism. It's a challenge to the Vedas. So that is the basic point. The fact of the matter is, it will become very popular very quickly, and for 4 centuries it will dominate. But the simple point is, for you need to just understand these things and words, and that's it. End of story. So the terminologies which are relevant to you would be, for example, 4 noble truths. Atay Sachai, if you see, you know. Then suffering, dukh word. Samudaya means cause. Ashtang Mang means eightfold path. Sir, how do we say it is a challenge to Vedic system? Vedic Brahmanism is saying do ritual sacrifice, and it is basically developing a certain religious understanding. Buddha comes and says ritual sacrifice will not do anything. Just have the right view, meditate with me. So isn't it going to undercut the people who are going to the Brahmin? The Brahmin is asking for money for everything. But here is Buddha who's saying you don't need to do anything. No ritual, no sacrifice. Just come, meditate with me, and we will get moksha. Why are you doing that ritual sacrifice? For getting punya. So it is a major challenge. All these three are a challenge to Vedic Vedas, because the simple point is that Vedic Brahmanism had a certain path. So understand this point, that you need to understand the relevance of this discussion. I'm not here to discuss Buddhism with you. I don't care. I'm here to discuss how it is important for your understanding of the larger story of religious history of India. Vedic Brahmanism, 400 years, frustrated people, and now comes Buddha and Mahavira later, or the same time they emerge, and they challenge Vedic Brahmanism. So that is the basic point you need to understand. What is the relevance of this discussion? 4 noble truths is that there is dukh, there's a cause for it, you can remove it, and how do you remove it? Is eightfold path. Can we say it is based on myths because no one knows who will get salvation or not? We should know that is your way of looking at it. Then everything you see is actually, all of it is a myth. Then why are you then doing anything? That is the point. Then you are trusting this, which is your illusion, Maya. This is your Maya speaking. To be very honest, if you ask Buddha like this, that how do I know that a salvation I will get or not? First, you will not get a certificate. I really don't care if it works or not. But the point is that it is your Maya, it is the illusion, it is the worldly things which are asking you this question. You have to try to get it. How do you know that it will not work? It can work also. There's a chance for that also, right? 50-50. It may or may not work. Now, it's the point that do you want to give it a chance or not? But the point is, I don't care. Please, you're asking me judgmental questions. And judgmental questions, I only have one answer, which is I don't care. I don't care if it is a myth. I don't care if it works or not. I don't care what it is. Because for me, I'll answer that question in the examination and I'll move on. Because it's not that this is a world-changing moment for you. And I'm not asking you to learn the concept. I'm not asking you to learn the philosophy. I'm asking you to learn the terms and move on. So nobody is asking to do nothing. So this basically flourished because of the time and space of that time. No, that is not true. क्या बाबा exist नहीं करते आजकल? There are no babas today. Half of India, or at least 10 to 15% of the Indian population, still is coming under the influence of people who technically say only crap. But still, you people are following. So if people like Ram Rahim can exist, then anything can happen. So don't say that it is, don't say that we live in different times. The times are exactly the same. Superstition, people killing other people in form of human sacrifice, has that stopped? Multiple cases have emerged in India vis-a-vis people killing their families or people killing certain people for the concept of human sacrifice. What is that based on? If we have become so modern, there are cultic practices in America also, there's cultic practices in Europe also. So don't think that because you are wearing this westernized shirt and pant and you have a phone which is an iPhone or a modern technology or this, all this has changed people. People are still blind to religion. People are doing that. The British taught us to kill people in the name of religion, and you are thinking about people this time changing. At least there are tolerant times, at least. At least a Buddhist and a Jain and a Vedic Brahmanistic could disagree with each other and coexist. That is not possible today. So this is a value loaded question you're asking me, and I really don't want to answer it because nothing changes with regards to that. So if there is a hallmark of ancient India and medieval India to some extent, at least for ancient, it is tolerance. Same caves, you have Buddhist, Jain, and Hinduistic. That is not true today. So tolerance is something which was inbuilt into the Indian subcontinent, but we ourselves have forgot it. So I really don't care. Beat any religion, there will always be superstition. Beat any religion, there will always be irrational people. Beat any religion, there will always be people who are trying to make a fool out of the others. Any religion, every religion, same thing happens. So let's stick to the syllabus because I don't care, and it's a concept which you need to understand that things, the more the things change, the things remain the same. So if we were truly modern, we would not be having people being killed in the name of religion or in the name of superstition. Okay, now these first four terminologies everybody knows because we've already discussed it as part of the larger concept. But the next set of words are more important. Wherein these words have been sometimes sprinkled around in the examination to distract or basically complicate the terminologies. The first one is very straightforward, which is called Nibbana. Now, this is the one which Nibbana and Nirvana people mix up. See, Nibbana means blowing out, dying out, extinction. But this has two meanings in that regard. This has two meanings in that regard. One is the symbolic blowing out of the or the flame of desire. So this is first meaning is symbolic, which is blowing out of flame of desire. Only when you will stop desiring things, you will get salvation. On the other hand, the other one would be also the physical aspect of dying. That when you die, in Buddhism, it is called Nibbana. Now, there could be two things. Either it is symbolic, it is non-symbolic. Now, that matters on the context. So, if a Buddhist follower dies, it is Nibbana. But if the Buddhist follower's desire for the worldly things also die, that is also Nibbana. So, Nibbana basically is used in multiple contexts. And how does the physical connotation comes through? Because when Buddha died, it is documented in Buddhist texts as parinibbana, which is the death of the enlightened one. So when you die, it is nibbana. When the prime minister dies, it is parinibbana. People who are important when they die, parinibbana. So nibbana means two things: physical form of death. Our Prakrit word for death is nibbana, but it has a symbolic meaning also, which is desire. When it dies in you, then it is called nibbana. Parinibbana is when the enlightened one or Buddha dies itself. Death and salvation are very different things. Death is death, physical act of death. Death is a physical thing, which is death. Salvation is what you get after death. Salvation, nirvana, and moksha are the same thing. Understand this point. Salvation, nirvana, and moksha are the same thing, which is coming out of the concept of life and death. In certain contexts, the death of Buddha has also been called Mahaparinibbana. So, Parinibbana is also referred in certain texts as death of Buddha. In certain texts or in certain images, it's called Mahaparinibbana. But whenever it is Mahapari or Pari, it is only important people dying. When it is Nibbana, it is about people randomly dying, but it is symbolically also referring to the blowing away of the what we call as the flame of desire as it extinguishes. It is not a difficult word, it's a very straightforward word. It has both symbolic meaning and physical meaning, which is, you would have said that sometimes in your life, you would have also said that bhook mar gayi, that your hunger died. So that is Nibbana, which is you are symbolically using the word death as a way of telling your own desire. So, death of hunger, death of desire is Nibbana. But you also say that person died. So then there's a physical connotation there also. So there is a form of discrimination. Yes, if you are a very standard person, you are going to be called Nibbana. That he Nibbanned. That person, he met Nibbana. However, if you say that I am going to a Parinibbana, that a person Parinibbana, you know that is an important person who died. So symbolic meaning is the death of desire. Physical is the concept of act of dying. Are we clear about Parinibbana, Nibbana? Are we clear about these two things? Okay. Thereafter, there is what is called Pravajya. Pravajya is very straightforward. The person, when he leaves his household to become a monk, it is called Pravajya. Then comes three terms, very close to each other, very interesting. One is called Upasak. Upasak. One second. Now, when Siddhartha took his horse and left, yes, it is Pravajya, yes. When he took his horse and left, it was Pravajya. Perfect. Now, pay attention. After this, I give you a break because a very long and very important discussion needs to happen, which is Buddhist councils. But yeah, death of prominent person is Parinibbana. Now, I'll ask you a question. When you go on YouTube, every video which you see, do you subscribe to that channel? No. So basically, when you watch a person's video without subscribing to it, it is called you are an arhat. An arhat. Basically, we all today, all of us in class today, have become an arhat, which is that we don't subscribe to Buddhism, but we know Buddhist philosophy. You somehow now know the Ashtang mark. You know the secret of Buddhism. But are you a Buddhist? No. So when a lay person, when a common person who does not subscribe to Buddhism gets to know about Buddhist teaching, he's called an arhat. On the other hand, when you become a male follower, when you subscribe to the channel, And if you're male, you're called an upasak. And when you're female, you are called a upasaki. The difference is there are three gradations now. One is a monk who is very seriously following this concept. Then you have the upasak and the upasika. And then you have the arhat. Arhats are non-serious aspirants. Upasak, upasaki are serious aspirants. Monks are the teachers who are basically learning from Buddha and then telling it to the upasak and the upasika. So the point is, these are the last set of words. Arhat is a few instances of lay persons becoming a follower without joining the Sangha on simply hearing the doctrine. Arhat. A male and a female follower is called Upasak and Upasika. So, are we all clear with regards to Buddhist terminologies, philosophy, and concepts? Because if we are, I'll give you a 10-minute break here. And then I'll give you another break when we'll finish Buddhism and transition to Jainism. But can I now give you a break and we come back and discuss the most important discussion is the types of Buddhism and the Buddhist councils. Are we all on the same page? Yes? Okay. Vechri, this word is for later when Buddha will allow under the pressure of her mother and auntie to allow women to follow. It's not. It's a word not does not appear in the initial period, only in the later periods. Okay, nirvana, moksha, same thing. When your soul stops birth and rebirth cycle. So we'll come back at 7:31 and take this story forward. These things will not come in the mains. No, no. Nobody is going to say, tell us Buddhist philosophy. Obviously not. Prince, I'll come back and discuss this with you. Nibbana, Nirvana are not the same, obviously. Because Nirvana is to get moksha. Nibbana is to die. So same thing how somebody asked me death and salvation difference. Okay. 32. Okay. See you. Welcome back. Kindly tell us what is the relevance of Buddha's teaching in contemporary societies. You tell me. Bata? What is the relevance of Buddha's teaching in contemporary societies? This much you should be able to write. What is the relevance of Buddha's teaching in contemporary society? आज की दुनिया में what is Buddha's for mental well-being, ethics, non-violence? I'll figure that out. Don't worry. By the time I'll finish, you will ask for it. Don't worry. Meditation, peace, patience. Buddhist diplomacy is good for geopolitics. Meditation, yoga. Be tolerant of each other. Discipline. See, other than an essay question in which they can ask you this is not school. And if you've seen essay questions, this would be the easiest question they could ever give you. So, firstly, I don't understand the relevance of the question other than your curiosity to know how it makes us less materialistic, tolerant, this and that. You see, understand this. UPSC can ask you thousands of questions. But why will it ask you an easy question? There's a lot to be learned here. There's a lot to be asked here. So this is the easiest question they can ask you. Because here you only have to make a long story of how Buddha's teaching is relevant vis-a-vis geopolitics, vis-a-vis religious violence, vis-a-vis social issues, vis-a-vis this and that. Because that is a very easy question. Very easy question. Kahani banana hai, that's it. So there are much difficult questions to be asked than this. Can we talk about councils? This type of question has never come itself. These are school type questions, school, college type questions. Discuss how Gandhi is relevant today. There are multiple questions to be asked out of Gandhi to be asked this. Okay. Now, as it is, nobody cares about Buddhism today, generally, to be very honest. Buddhism, Jainism have basically become very obscure religions in that way. Constitutionally as considered a part of Hinduism itself, or that whole set itself. Now, sir, if nirvana and nibbana both mean extinction of flame of desire, then how they are different? Because nibbana also has a physical connotation. Nirvana is not who told, when did I say that nirvana equals to the extinction of the flame of desire? How are you coming to this conclusion? I said nibbana is the extinction of desire gone and the physical act of dying. I am saying nirvana is salvation. For you, salvation is that desire goes away. Salvation is when you die and your soul becomes a part of God. Where are you getting this information? साथ में कोई क्लास खोल रखा है क्या? I am not getting this point. When did I say that nirvana equals to nibbana equals to extinction of flame of desire? When did I say that? Prince, where did you get this information? I am saying that nibbana is desire going away and the physical act of dying, and nirvana is getting salvation and moksha. And salvation and moksha are because of the act of your soul coming out of the concept of birth and rebirth. So where is that concept coming through? I'm telling you, I had too many sweets, high on sugar. Everybody is talking something new itself. So stop, please. It's not complicated. What you will do is you will start to overthink in exam itself. You will start to overthink in the exam itself. A simple, straightforward question it will be, and you will start to overthink. Okay. Now we talk about what happened after Buddha's death. Now please pay attention. Shreyans, that is a gray area. What is there a god in Buddhism? No, technically not. But in certain places they talk like there's a god in Buddhism. In though they talk about moksha, they don't talk about rebirth. And they talk about rebirth in the form of life energy. That is also a contradiction within Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't talk about the soul itself. They talk about life energy. There is, as I'm telling you, these are very, very dangerous topics. Jainism and Buddhism are not very easy to understand, which is that because there is a lot of philosophy in this. So again, Buddhism can't be an atheistic religion. That becomes an oxymoron. How can religion be atheistic? You have to be theistic to believe in religion. So what you are doing is that this is an oxymoron, two contradictory words together. Atheistic religion, there's nothing called atheistic religion. Then Buddha is God. I'm coming to that, which is in Mahayanic Buddhism, Buddha is God. Let the whole process happen. You are still, I'm telling you, you are complicating it to a point where I will stop care. I will stop caring of these questions if they will start to basically waver out of it. So this is the last moment in which I'm taking irrelevant questions. So don't use words which you don't know. Atheistic religion is nothing. Religion has to be theistic. So I am now going to discuss what matters for the examination. I really don't care if Nirvana Nibbana is now clear or not, because seventh time we've discussed it. Now, till Buddha is born or till Buddha is alive, it's okay that the religion remains relevant. That Buddha is talking about a lot of things. He's talking about Ashtanga Marg. The main preceptor, the main person is alive. At that point of time, spreading religion is very easy. But the biggest challenge to a religion comes when the most important personality dies. So it is believed that in 486, again quoted in different texts in different times, around that 480 period, he died at Kusinagar at the age of 80. That is the moment of the Mahaparinibbana or the Parinibbana. And the enlightened one died. Now, after this point, now the religion goes into a little bit of questioning. Because if you cannot hold religion at this point of time, you may become obscure, because Buddha is, your star is not there. So it is in this context that now the Sangha needs to step up. And now, till Buddha was alive, it was all an improvisation and it was all extempore. Meaning, Buddha did it what he wanted to do. He was the enlightened one. He talked about a lot of things. In different contexts, he said different things. He is the one who's basically doing it freestyle. But can you replace Buddha with someone else, and the person, what he says, people will listen to that person? That Buddha was saying what he wanted to say. Whatever he says is a sermon. But the person who comes after him, what he says is not a sermon. And this is a very important point. So you need to now institutionalize the religion so that people remember what Buddha said. And for that, the Sangha chooses to come up in councils. In different councils, they will decide it. And there were 4 such councils which happened till today in Buddhist history. So now we have to discuss these councils. The first Buddhist council it is believed. Now, who presided over it? Who was the ruler? Right now, keep the facts away. Understand the purpose, because that is more important to us. Because I have everything here. See, everything is there, showing it to you already. that it is Majat Shatru, it is Mahakasyapa, everything is written down. I want you to understand the purpose of them, and then I will tell you these facts later. So the first Buddhist council, when it happens exactly 1 year after and in around the period when Buddha dies, which is basically considered 486 BCE. Now the Sangha needs to find a way to somehow institutionalize everything. And the answer to that question is that the Sangha will meet and produce two texts. Two texts are produced. One is called the Vinay Pitaka, and the other one is called the Sutta Pitaka. So basically, the three texts together, called the Tipitakas, are the most important texts in Buddhism, what are called the canonical texts. Which is the canonical text of Christianity? Canonical text means the rules and regulations book, the most important book, the Bible. And in Islam, it would be the Quran. So in Buddhism, it is the Tipitakas, three books together: Vinay, Sutta, Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma is not going to come now, it will come later. But the first two of the Tipitakas are now in front of you. Pitika means book. This means book. Again, a Prakrit word. Now, Vinay Pitak is important because this is the book which has rules and regulations for the monks and how to conduct oneself within the Sangha. On the other hand, the Sutta Pitaka is going to be the teachings of Buddha as a form of conversation between him and his followers. So basically, whatever Buddha said was put here. What Buddha said and how you become a monk is written in the Vinay Pitak. Sangha is nothing but council. It's a simple concept. Buddha had 1 lakh followers, 100 very core followers. Now Buddha is dead. Those 100 followers come together and become one Sangha, which is a council. And they will now act as the most important body which will organize and institutionalize the religion. So the Sangha has produced two very important texts, which is called the Vinay Pitak and the Sutta Pitak. And one is the rule and regulation book for the Buddhists, specifically the monks. And the other is the teachings of Buddha and what he said in a dialogue form, which is what he said to his disciples. Are we clear with regards to first Buddhist council? Because here things are till this point okay. Because things will change in the next 100 years. Okay. Vinay, rules and regulations for monks and how to conduct oneself within the Sangha. The teachings of Buddha as a form of conversation between him and his followers. Now, it's a straightforward concept. Nobody really questioned nothing. Rules and regulations for monks, how to conduct oneself within the Sangha, teachings of Buddha as a form of conversation between him and his followers. Now the second time, over 100 years, between 486 and 386 BCE, things are changing. Things are changing, wherein there's a conversation which starts between the monks and between Buddhism, wherein the question was raised was that, is Vinay Pitak too hard to follow? Is Vinay Pitak too hard to follow? Wherein the rules and regulations as codified inside the Vinay Pitak, there are two factions which will develop. One faction will say two sides or factions developing. One says the rules are too hard to follow and we need to change them. And the second one, the rules are not problematic. We do not make any changes in Vinay Pitaka. Now the majority of the people were here, and they were called the Mahasangika. On the other hand, the minority, they are called Theravada faction. You would have seen one more name for Theravada, and I want to show it to you. It's called Sthanavardin. Sthanavardina is nothing but Theravada. These two words are the same thing. It's called Sthanavardin or Theravada. But we call it Theravada because that is the name which till today exists. So one faction is saying change. One faction is saying do not change. And over this issue, the second Buddhist council will meet exactly 100 years later under a person called Kalasoka. If you remember, I asked you to remember his name. Ajatashatru and Kalashoka. Ajatashatru is the first drafter, second is Kalasoka. Under Kalasoka, second Buddhist council, now there's a split between, or rather we'll say, over the issue of Vinay Pitaka, the Buddhist council Sangha splits. It splits into Theravada school and the Mahasangika school. This school till today uses the original Vinay Pitika rules. This is the orthodox school and the oldest school. On the other hand, the Mahasangika diluted the Vinay Pitak, changed the rules. They were the liberal school and they took Buddhism forward. Basically, after this point, Theravadi are going to now be on the one side of the story. They will now become the second or an offshoot out of Buddhism. So Buddhism has split. So at this second Buddhist council, now the Mahasangika will take, the majority will take the aspect of taking Buddhism forward, and Theravada school is going to come out of Buddhism and say, we will not go further, we will only follow the Vinay and Sutta Pitak as written in the first Buddhist council. Everybody is following me till this point? Okay. Now, no Amrit, not even close to what happens within that. Now, at the third Buddhist council, which happens under the most celebrated Buddhist, Ashoka, the third Buddhist council is under Ashoka. And here, the third book or Abhidhamma Pitika is written, making it Vinay Sutta Abhidhamma, together called the Pitikas. And the need for the third book is Ajatshatru Kalashoka Ashoka. The need for the third book was that Sutta Pitak was these teachings, but it did not tell you what the meaning of that teaching was. So Abhidhamma Pitak is the philosophy of Buddhism or the interpretation of Sutta Pitaka. So basically, think of Sutta like the Constitution of India and Abhidhamma like, for example, D.D. Basu or Lakshmikant. That the raw acts were not making sense to some people. What does that section or article mean? So what they did was they elaborated on it and they very simply interpreted Sutta Pitaka and gave the core philosophy in Abhidhamma. Vinay and Sutta existed since the beginning, first Buddhist council, but Sutta is like raw acts of the constitution. Article number 1, article number 2, article number 3. These are what Buddha said in conversational tone. But the problem was that I can read the same line and interpret it in a different way. You can see the same line and interpret it in a different way. The same article can be interpreted in different ways. The same way a conversation with Buddha could be interpreted in 3 different ways. So very simply, the philosophy of Buddhism was there to be opened up by reading and telling what it actually means. So what they did was that they interpreted the Sutta Pitaka and gave the gists that this is what Buddha means, this is what Buddha means, this is what Buddha means, this is what Buddha means. So the Abhidhamma is basically an extension of the Sutta. It is the interpretation of Sutta over and above Sutta and Vinaya. Is the crux of what he wanted to say. Because problem with teachings is it can actually lead to multiple representations and multiple interpretations. So the third Buddhist council is under Ashoka. I'll give you the dates. Don't worry, it's at 200 something. The point is not that. The point is that you need to understand what is happening in each council. First, they write 2 books. Second, they split. Third, they write another book. If this is clear, this is clear. There is again multiple dates, Anjali. That's the problem. 250 BC, some people say 248, some people say 253. That's not the point. Are we clear with regards to 3 Buddhist councils? Are we clear? 250 I have given also, but there are multiple books will give you different books, different terms. Can I go to 4th Buddhist council? That is where the main thing happens. Okay. Now, today a little bit lethargic you are. I don't know is it the Diwali effect or not, but little bit slow to respond that way. Okay. First is writing 2 books. Abhidhamma and Vinay and Sutta. Vinay is rule book. Sutta is teaching or Buddha's what he said. Second is very simply first split over Vinay Pitak, too difficult, Mahasangika, and too easy or not should be changed, Theravada. Now Mahasangika meets the third time for the third Buddhist council, and they write another book Abhidhamma so that there's no issue of interpretation. That's it. Now the Mahasangika calls the 4th council or 4th Buddhist council. And this is where the most exclusive things happen. What is called as the most explosive, exclusive, whatever you want to call it. Yes, you can, Rashida. Now, Mahasangika is already there. Mahasangika is already there. Now, the problem is that there are 2 interpretations which have started to develop. One faction within the Mahasangika started to say that how should we see Buddha? How should we see Buddha? One side or one faction of the Mahasangika said that Buddha is God and we should worship him in idols and his closest followers are bodhisattvas. On the other side, they said that okay, Buddha is Buddha, but Buddha was not a god. Buddha was a good teacher, and we will worship his symbols, no idol worship, The first one were called the Mahayana Buddhism or Mahayanic Buddhism, and the second one is called Hinayana Buddhism or Hinayanic Buddhism. Mahayan means better, greater vehicle. Hinayan means lesser vehicle. Obviously, Mahayan gave this name to the Hinayan. The first one are saying Buddha is God and idol worship is what they're advocating. On the other hand, the other side of the story is that they said that no, we are now misinterpreting Buddha himself. He is not God, but he is a good teacher who can take you to God. And this is where things get complicated within Buddhism. But what is more interesting is that in Mahayanic Buddhism, there is a further understanding that the students of Buddha, the closest of students of Buddha, are also subsidiary gods. They have delayed their nirvana for us, but when they will die, they will also be considered God only. And those are called bodhisattvas. That wherein you have Buddha as the main god, and then his other students, 6 to 7 very core. For example, Vajrapani, Manjushri, Avlokeshwar, Maitreyi, Tara. These were very important personalities who were related to Buddha, and they were considered to be also gods, but they delayed their what we call as uh, uh, enlightened, their nirvana, their moksha for us. For us. So before I go into Mahayana and Hinayana properly, I want to first summarize these four Buddhist councils in a flowchart. And thereafter, I will talk to you about Mahayana and Hinayana in more detail. In the eyes of Buddha, neither are right. Because he never saw himself as a god. He never saw himself as a good teacher. He was always he's a monk. Monks are not teachers, monks are not gods. They are separate. Okay. Now see. There's a trick how you learn this. The first trick is odd councils, there are books. Even council, there are split. Understand this point. On odd councils, 1 and 3, there are books. And on even council, there are split. Please remember this. This is a trick to remember how you have to basically understand it. 1 and 3 book, 2 and 4 split. And if you have to make it like this, you will make it like this. See. First Buddhist Council. Under this, 2 books written, Sutta Pitaka and Vinay Pitaka, and thereafter second Buddhist Council, Buddhism will split into 2, Theravada and Mahasangika. Then the Mahasangika will call the third Buddhist Council, and they will produce the third book, which is Abhidhamma. And at the fourth Buddhist Council, Mahasangika will split into 2, Hinayanic and Mahayanic Buddhism. And you would also know about one more, which is called Vajrayanic Just to tell you, Vajrayanic is going to come out of this. Vajrayanic Buddhism. It's a further split out of Mahayanic Buddhism. This is basically the concept. On all the the first two councils, you have the book, the first split, and thereafter third is again book, fourth is again split. So are we clear with regards to the basic contour of how it is happening? Will you be able to identify in statement based questions if they are correctly defining these councils or not? Yes. Now, first Buddhist council after the Mahaparinirvana of Buddha in Rajgir, person Ajatshatru calls it, or the one who organizes it. The most important monk who sits and decides is Mahakasyapa. He was the one who said that we need to compile two books, Sutta, Buddha Sermon and Teaching and Ethics, Vinaya, Rules for a Monk. Then exactly 100 years later, they will meet under Kalasoka and the monk is going to be Sabakambi, and the first difference in opinion will come, Orthodox school and the unorthodox school, over the issue of monastic discipline. Thereafter, the Mahasangika is going to meet for the third Buddhist council at Patliputra, 250 BC, under no one else but Asoka and one of the most celebrated monks, Mogaliputta Tisa. There was again conflicting ideas, but Abhidhamma Pitaka is going to be introduced, which will tell you the philosophical doctrine of teachings of the Buddha itself. And thereafter, Ashoka will say, I will send the Buddhists all across the world. Let's spread Buddhism. Fourth Buddhist council is going to be in Kundalvana, Kashmir, and this is going to be under Kanishka, a Kushana ruler we will discuss. And two monks will preside over the issue of differing interpretations, Vasumitra and Ashwaghosha. There were 18 different groups which had developed within Buddhism, and now they will split into Mahayanic and Hinayanic Buddhism at the different point of time. And we have compilation of all of this in different copper plate inscriptions. That is why we know it. Now what comes out is the Mahayanic and the Hinayanic Buddhism. Theravada is going to become a most ancient branch, still exists in Sri Lanka and certain parts of Southeast Asia. They very simply said that Arhat, which is not subscribing to the channel, you will never get salvation. And therefore, for them, Four Noble Truths and meditation was very, very important. Now, I want to discuss Mahayanic Buddhism if we all are clear with regards to this concept itself. Are we clear? Your facts are done. 1 and 3 are books. Yes, 2 and 4 are split. Meanwhile, split in fourth concept, Theravada remains to exist. Yes, Theravada was separate to this whole concept. What is the Mahasangika? See, all facts are important for prelims generally. What I'm writing it down is because you need to understand it further. It's an art and culture zone. So you need to understand Buddhism because Mahayanic and Hinayanic Buddhism is extremely important to understand Ajanta, Ellora, or art and culture of ancient India. It's very, very important. Okay. There's nothing called Vajrayanic. There's Vajrayanic. Vajrayanic, I've never heard in my life. Vajrayanic. Do we remember all these facts? Yes, you do. Yes, bodhisattvas are alive. That Shayans I'm coming to that. Arhat as Buddhahood attainment is impossible, which is that only when you're an Upasak Upasika, you get Buddhahood, which is enlightenment, or what we call as moksha. You never get it as a layman follower. Again, Vechri, what you're trying to do is, I don't get it. Basically, despite meditation, they commit violence in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, religious extremism, this, that. See, no religion tells you to kill anyone. Religions can go in different directions and can be not what they need to be. So, be it the Rohingya issue, be it what is happening in Sri Lanka, be it what is happening in Myanmar, it's okay. It's okay. Where have I written Vajrayanik? This is Vajrayanic Buddhism. Now, okay. That was not a P, that was actually a Y, but okay. Can we learn together cultural life of these heterodox? Radical Buddhism making violence. Okay. 1 and 3 are books, means books were written by Buddha. No, Buddha is dead. Buddha, why would you need a book? It is after Buddha's dead. Buddha is dead. Now they are making it a proper religion by writing the texts. Understand this point. It is after Buddha's death. So any text in any religion comes after the death of the person. So don't make me question the original pretext on which it is based. If you will pay attention, it will only have it. Why will you write a text when Buddha is alive? Okay. Now, can I talk about Vajrayanic and Hinayanic Buddhism and Mahayanic Buddhism? Okay. Rahul, ask the question straight. Don't write one question, then I will wait for you to ask that question. Straight away write the question. Theravada spreaders in Sri Lanka after Ashoka. How? The monks went to Sri Lanka. Some people followed them. End of story. So that can always happen. Buddhism will change quite a lot, but Theravada spread to south, then spread to Sri Lanka. These monks are traveling around. They're trying to. Religion survives on subscribers. They will keep on trying to explain to the people how they can become better by becoming Buddhists. So this is a standard thing. There's nothing problematic here. Yes, Sangamitra and Mahendra were sent to the Sri Lankan sector. Okay. Now, Mahayanic Buddhism is the greater vehicle according to them. That is why they call themselves the greater vehicle. And see, why is Mahayanic Buddhism important? Because of the fact that it is trying to remain relevant in the world it is there. See, by the time we come to post Maurya, which is Kanishka is Kushana, there was a need to change the outlook. And these splits are nothing but trying to remain relevant over a period of time. If you make so harder rules to become a monk, you will never have subscribers only. Or you will never have people trying to be monks. Or the concept that in the era of multiple gods, there was a need to make Buddha more popular. But if you always say that Buddha is a teacher, then it will never make him popular. So how do you spread Buddhism? If you want a Buddhist, what we call as representation, and there is no physical form we give to Buddha, then how do you remain relevant in the changing times? So whilst maybe Buddha would not have agreed with what Mahayana did to himself, but the point is that this is the desperate need for the hour. And that is why they will create a whole concept around Buddha, wherein Buddha and subsidiary bodhisattvas. So for them, monks and ordinary followers can also become spiritual liberating. See, if I go to, if you tell me, can a Vaishya or a Kshatriya actually give up everything and become a monk? Can they? No. And if you go to the Theravada school, they will straight away say that you are not serious, you will never get anything. Mahayanic Buddhism says, no, 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 that is not the case. Monks can also get spiritual liberation. You can also get spiritual liberation. Worship Buddha. Understand the, say, for everything which is happening, there is a idea, there's a concept behind it. If you will tell every layman follower, every standard upasak upasika that you are not serious, you will not get anything, then never it will work. Because then why would people come to Buddhism? So here it was like, no, no, no. Everybody is going to get Buddhahood. Everybody is going to get enlightenment. Everybody is going to get this concept. You just need to see Buddha as God and worship him. And this will be the most popular form of Buddhism spread across all of Southeast Asia and South Asia. From China to Japan to Korea to Mongolia, Bhutan, Tibet, everywhere. And further, the fact of the matter is, read this line. Does this line seem to be a little bit similar? Have you heard this line somewhere? Accumulation of spiritual merit through rebirths. Have you ever heard this concept or line previously? Where have you heard it? Where have you seen this type of line? Yes. Isn't this nothing but saying what is the concept of punya? That by punya ka, there's a counter of punya. If you don't fill it up, you would have to be reborn and then fill it up again. Once you collect enough punya cashback points, you get moksha. So now you see how Mahayanic Buddhism has changed the way we see Buddhism. Because they say, okay, maybe you will not get this time. Next time when you are born, you also try to be a Buddhist, then maybe you will get it. See, there are multiple questions which are being asked to Buddhism. Buddhism is saying, we may say that monk may get it in one chance, you may get it in two chances. So, in a way, Mahayanic Buddhism is competing with Vedic Brahmanism and taking up the concept from there. Taking up the concepts from there. See, this is not for new followers to get added. This is for the followers who are already following and a justification for their devotion. Please understand this point that over a period of time, every religion needs to change. And this is Buddhism trying to change. But what is even more interesting is the concept of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are compassionate beings who have offsetted their nirvana for you. Basically, they could have become Buddha, but they didn't because they wanted you to get salvation. So for you and your sins and your deeds and your problems, they did not get it. They delayed it. Bodhisattvas, therefore, are basically subsidiary gods. You have Buddha as the main god, then you have 3 to 4 gods around him. And their names are important. The most important subsidiary god or bodhisattva is Avalokeshwar. Sometimes called Lokeshwar, sometimes called Padampani, sometimes called Avalokeshwar. Now, what does it depict? There are 3 principal deities around Buddha. Buddha is there. The 3 principal deities: Avalokeshwar, Manjushri, and Vajrapani. And he is one of them, which is Avalokeshwar. He is the one who holds the lotus, and that is why it's called Padampani, the one who has in his hand the lotus. Very well, beautifully depicted in the Ajanta caves. When I will show it to you when we will see art and culture and specifically paintings. But what is his quality? He is the one who is the Bodhisattva of compassion. He listens to the cries of the world and thereafter he helps them. He is the Bodhisattva of compassion. He comes to the aid of everyone who is basically cry. In Theravada, there's also a version of Avalokeshwar, though Theravada basically should not have it, but basically he has a version of him in which is called Lokeshwar. And the Tibetan concept of Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is actually seen as a human incarnation of Avalokeshwar. And in multiple places, he is also been represented as female. So in different areas of the world, Avalokeshwar is represented everywhere for sure. So think of it like Buddha being the main god, but now he is working through these gods. Avalokeshwar, it is believed, was alive at the first Buddhist council, but by the third Buddhist council, he wasn't there. And that is why you can understand that by the fourth Buddhist council, he got institutionalized into the religion itself. He's a sub-god. Yes, he's a sub-god. So Avalokeshwar is the god of compassion. Is the god of compassion. That he basically represents the compassion of Buddha. He's a deity. He's a deity. Basically, God and deity concept, but I'm not trying to use the word deity because it confuses people more. He's a subsidiary god in that regard. Then comes Vajrapani. Vajrapani is also depicted in the Ajanta caves. And basically, he is the one who is the protector of Buddhists. He is the protector of Buddhists. He protects. So while Avalokeshwar listens, Vajrapani protects. And the last major three subsidiary gods is Manjushri. Remember the names because these have directly come in the examination. Manjushri is the wisdom of Buddha. The one who yields the sword is the wisdom of Buddha, meaning intellect of Buddha. So now you can see you have Buddha, his compassion in Avalokeshwar, his protection in Vajrapani, and his wisdom in Manjushri. Now it has been predicted in the Buddhist texts that Buddha will reappear on earth. Again, enlightenment he will complete. He will gain enlightenment and then teach pure dharma or dhamma and then again get nirvana. But this time he will not be called Buddha. He will take his reincarnation as Maitreya. Maitreya is basically future Buddha. And in Southeast Asia, it is believed that Buddha came and went, and it was the laughing Buddha representation, is the incarnation of Maitreya. So Maitreya is basically a word which is used for future Buddha. We don't know if Maitreya came or not. The fact of the matter is, in Chinese and Japanese, specifically in Chinese understanding, it is the laughing Buddha who represents Maitreya. Basically, for them, Maitreya came and went, and it was laughing Buddha who was there. Then you have Tara. This is a very interesting point. Tara is the only female here. Female subsidiary god. And the most interesting thing about Tara is she will become very important in Vajrayanic Buddhism. Vajrayanic Buddhism does not give a lot of heed to Buddha. For Vajrayanic Buddhism, it is Tara who is very important. Then you have Vasudhara, wealth, prosperity. In Nepal, you will find Vasudhara. Then you have Skanda, who is the guardian of the monks. He will protect the viharas, which are the residential quarters of the monks. And the last is Sitapatra. Sitapatra is basically the protector against supernatural disasters and is there in both Mahayana and Vajrayana. Now, see, this is the constellation of gods. I'm basically teaching you what are the gods within Buddhism or Mahayanic Buddhism. You have Buddha as the main god, who is the enlightened one. Then you have Avalokeshwar, Manjushri, and Vajrapani as the three main gods. They represent compassion, wisdom and protection. Then there's a further constellation of different reincarnations or concepts within Buddha. Maitreyi is their own next reincarnation when Buddha will come back. Thereafter, you have Skanda who protects the monks itself. Then you have Sitapatra, who's a specific person who protects you against natural disasters. And then you have Tara and Vasudhara. Vasudhara is easy, it's prosperity, wealth and prosperity. It is Tara who will become very important in Vajrayanic Buddhism. But then what is Vajrayanic Buddhism? Vajrayanic Buddhism is because it emerges in the Gupta post-Gupta period when Tantra Mantra was emerging. Tantra Mantra. Basically, Mahayanic Buddhists, as much as they can say all of these things, their path is meditation. Meditation takes less time or more time to get salvation? More or less? It takes a lot of time. A lot of time to meditate and get salvation. So people will get frustrated, and a faction within the Mahayanic Buddhism will say, we don't need these things. We will get salvation through Tantra Mantra. So we will do Tantra Mantra. We will add certain aspects of reincarnation. We will use Tara as the most important figure. And Vajrayanic Buddhism then comes out of Mahayanism with the concept of Tantra Mantra. So Tantricism, when it mixes up with Mahayanic Buddhism, you get Vajrayanic Buddhism. Most of the monasteries in India, which are in the Ladakh, Sikkim, or the Uttarakhand or the Himachal Pradesh sector, all are Vajrayanic Buddhist. All are actually Vajrayanic Buddhist. So they have their own Tantra, Mantra, they have their own understanding, they have their own way of doing Buddhist practices. And the last concept within this is very simply Hinayanic. Hinayanic are called lesser vehicle. They are more orthodox, more discipline and meditation. Buddha is a great teacher, but not a god. And we will rather use his symbols to worship or understand him. So you have the lotus, the Dharma Chakra. This is the origin of our Ashokan Chakra, which is used in our flag itself. Then you have the three Ratnas, the Naga, the deer, the different aspects used for him. But the most interesting out of all these three is actually Vajrayanic only. In this, the main deity is Tara. It is a combination of Brahmanical rituals plus Tantra Mantra, Yantra. They are like, we are the Vajrayan, lightning vehicle. You do lesser and lower. We are Vajrayanic Buddhism. So Tantra Mantra is easier part to achieve Buddhahood without the difficulties to compare to the concept of the paramitas of the Mahayana. You take vows, you then do work, then you meditate. No, we will do Tantra Mantra and we will become, or we'll get the concept of what we call as moksha. See, all of them have their own concepts, own issues. But Buddhism, this is the only thing which you need to understand is the difference between Mahayanic, Hinayanic and Vajrayanic. Now I'm summarizing Buddhism for you because then I'll take a lot of questions. Your very value loaded questions have come through, but I will discuss them. The point is, let's consolidate. Three Ratnas, four Sachai, Atriya Sachais, and Eightfold Path are the basic concepts. Thereafter, you have a certain set of terms. Then four councils after Buddha dies. First council, Vinay Sutta. Second council, Theravada Mahasangika. Third council, Abhidhamma. Fourth council split into Hinayanic and Mahayanic. And Mahayanic later will have an offshoot called Vajrayanic. Mahayanic, there are three things which you need to remember. If in the examination you see God, Bodhisattva, it is automatically Mahayanic Buddhism, and images of Buddha, idol worship. Hinayanic is non-idol worship, symbols, and good teacher. Vajrayanic is we don't have the patience to do anything. We will do Tantra Mantra and we will become or we will get salvation. That is Vajrayanic Buddhism for you. If you can remember this much, your most of the questions can be answered by just knowing basic understanding about these things. Are we clear with regards to this? Yes or no? Come on. This is not that difficult. It is very straightforward. This is more than enough to answer any question. Buddhist literature I will discuss with you separately because here if I teach you Buddhist literature, you will faint. So I do that in literature part of art and culture. If somebody today asks you what are the basic precepts, what is the basic concept of Buddhism, what is the eightfold path, what is the difference between Hinayanic, Vajrayanic, and Mahayanic, you are capable of answering these three questions. Yes? Okay. Sita Patra protects you against natural disasters. That's it. Specific type of protection. Most of the people are Mahayanic. Very small percentage is Vajrayanic. Theravada and Hinayanic, if Theravada is the least, Hinayanic okay-ish number. But Mahayanic is the most popular. Okay. Now, Ilma, there is a concept of freeing of soul from birth and rebirth, then how they incarnate future gods. And if they are talking about future gods, then means Buddha will reborn. So how they become free from birth and rebirth. That is, again, I told you, that is the contradiction within Buddhism. They talk about soul, they talk about rebirth and birth, but they don't actually talk about soul itself. They are talking about life energy. This is a major contradiction within Buddhism, and philosophies do have issues. Bodhisattva only exists in one of them, that is Mahayanic Buddhism. Okay. Buddhism also like Vedic Brahmanism, Tantra Mantra. Yeah, that is the way it is getting in a way appropriation. This is called appropriation. See, Buddhism is going to get a major blow in the Gupta period, which I will tell you that Buddhism will basically lose all of its constituency in one go. That for that you have to wait for 2-3 classes. By this weekend, I will tell you that what happened to Buddhism later. At this point, it's at the peak in that regard. He born as Maitri, so he never get parinirvana. That is not true. That is not true. Buddha had got nirvana. He became God, and God can reincarnate. Hey, tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. You are acting like you don't know the concept of God's reincarnating. Where does this actually concept come from? Gods reincarnating themselves, coming back in certain forms. This is again, it is not Vedas, but actually Puranas. It's actually Hinduism from which they picked. Don't you get it? They're actually getting influenced by the what we did. What we did. The whole festival last night was about a incarnation of Lord Vishnu himself, right? And that is the basic point you need to understand. This is how Hinduism, Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, you have multiple reincarnations of Lord Vishnu. The Dasavatar concept, I will discuss this with you. The point I'm trying to argue is that Buddhism did not remain a monolith. It kept on changing itself. And that is why what I'm trying to explain to you, that there will be a certain concept that Buddhism kept on changing itself as per the need of the hour. Every 100, 200 years, it changed itself. So, how does Vajrayanic Buddhism differ from other Buddhist academic life? First, that question makes no sense. But Vajrayanic Buddhism is very different to other forms of Buddhism because it rejects Ashtang Marg. It says that there's no point of Ashtang Marg. We will bypass all of that through Tantra Mantra. If at the end Buddhism is like Vedic Buddhism, then what is the contradiction? What is the point of contradicting? Shweta, that is the point. You can start by hating me, but by the end become like me also. So Buddha wanted to contradict the Vedas. His Sangha started to change. Now, why are you not understanding this point? You start by hating Vedas. But to remain relevant, you had to pick up the concepts. But Buddha didn't change it. All changes came after his death, not before it, only after it. Now, this is what happens. Religions evolve because they need to remain relevant. Maybe not on the same person, but later. Christianity did it. The concept of Protestant and Catholic. That happens. So, can we now take a small breather for 5 minutes and then go to Jainism, which is even more harder to follow and more important? Again, Shivaji, I don't know, were you sleeping or where were you? He's asking me, Nirvana and Nibbana are the same. Again, we are back to square one. I had the same conversation with Prince. Now you're asking me the same thing. Nirvana is getting salvation, getting moksha. Nibbana is just dying. So please understand this point. We have discussed three ratnas, four truths, eightfold path. We have discussed terms, and we discussed four Buddhist councils: Hinayanic, Mahayanic, Vajrayanic, Theravada. There is nothing to be taught here. There's nothing to be taught here. There's only to be consolidated. Four are there: Hinayana teacher, Mahayanic God, Tantra Mantra, original. Now, for some of you, this is also important, which is subsects. Which is that what are the subsects within Hinayana and Mahayana? Now, there are total 18 to 20 here. But every time when they're asked in the examination, they try to mix it up with Jain. Jain, there are 5 subsects and there are 20 in Buddhism. You tell me which one should I teach you and make you learn? Jain one or the Buddhist one? Jain. So we take a break here. We come back. We discuss Jainism. And in Jainism, when I teach you the sects, we will be able to easily manage any subsect or sect question because they always sprinkle Jain into it. Jain, there are only 5. Now, before I take this break, I need your 100% assent that we are clear with regards to basics of Buddhism. And when I teach you art and culture, you will not ask me what is Hinayanic, Mahayanic, Vajrayanic. Yes? Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So we take a small break because I want you to be fresh for Jainism. No, Jainism is more straightforward, not that difficult. It's very straightforward. And then we will close for today by doing this whole story of religion. So it is 8:43, 8:50, and after 8:50, I want 40 minutes of proper concentration. Right? 8:50, we come back. Rahul, firstly, don't send me Wikipedia text. Second thing, I will show you the 2013 question. And again, Nirvana is an English word. And they are writing Nirvana bracket Nibbana. I know this confusion every time happen. Every time it will happen, I know that. But stop quoting Wikipedia to me. Wikipedia is not an authentic source. It is written by people like you and me only. So I will show you. I will show you the question. Firstly, in that question, it doesn't even really matters if Nirvana and Nibbana are the same thing. But stop quoting me Wikipedia, because anybody can write Wikipedia, and as it is, Nibbana cannot be equal to Nirvana because the word Nirvana is an English word. So there had to be a Prakrit word. It's a Prakrit word. It would have a Sanskrit word for it, and these words are very close to each other. So it can't be that moksha becomes Nibbana. So don't worry about that. But never ever quote me Wikipedia for anything, please, because Wikipedia, you have no idea who's writing what. You can also change it and change it. You have to just make an account in Wikipedia. Manjushri is the protector of everyone. Skanda is the protector of monks. If they are calling Buddhists as facilitators and came to birth. Again, Kishan, all religion is contradictory. Facilitator of salvation came out from birth. Again, as I'm saying, it's all contradictory. If that was, see, if you look at it logically, all of it is like that only. If you will start to use logic in religion, no religion will ever stand the test of time. So it's not just Buddhism, it is Jainism, it is any religion. Logic and faith does not go together in most cases. Because if that would have been the case, then sati would never have happened in India itself. Then female infanticide would never happen. Specifically, something like sati was justified. And logic won't work that way. And that is the only point I'm going to tell you. So are there contradictions? Yes, there are multiple contradictions in religion. Buddhism is not away from it. Okay. Now, no, Shreyansh, because that makes no sense. That this is not how you don't give up on something because it does not go with your logic. That's not the way it happens. As I said, if an ISRO scientist is going and presenting Lord Venkateshwara with the Chandrayaan 3 model, that is what is India for you. A scientist believes in religion, and that is the real aspect about our own culture. So faith and logic are always separate because they will never come together and they will never actually make sense. But again, what you're doing is you are making this as an Astha channel. That I'm discussing how things happen, how this is not Astha channel. My job is not to tell you have this discussion with you. I've done my job with regards to telling you what is Buddhism. Is it contradictory? Does it work? Does it not work? Does it this, that, plant, I don't care. I really don't care. Now I'm going to Jainism. Can I start Jainism? Again, Amrit, Nirvana is the extinction of flame of desire. You are again confusing. Nibbana is. Nirvana is an English word. Nibbana, moksha. Once the flame of desire comes through, Nibbana leads to moksha. So they are related to each other. Okay. Why only Buddha is so famous? Why not 4 monks also? Aishwarya, you don't know. In Buddhism, they are famous. That the Avalokiteshvara and all are very, very famous. You know what Buddhism Buddha because that one person. World famous. If you can be represented in the Ajanta paintings, you are obviously famous. Now, Jainism is a little bit different. Let's try to understand first what is this word Jain? Where does it come from? Now, the word Jain comes from the fact that the people who follow the Jina are called Jains. And Jains follow Jina. So then what is Jina? He is the one with infinite knowledge. So he is the enlightened one. Other ignore that personality. The problem is him, not you. So there will always be intolerance. Don't worry about that. But good. You have all the right to do what you are doing, and that's a good thing. Songs are songs. So ignore that. Jain, Jina, the one who follows the infinite knowledge one or the enlightened one is called the Jains. See, Jina, a person who has attained infinite knowledge and teaches how to attain moksha, liberation from cycle of rebirth and birth. So the word Jain comes from here, but there's one more term which is used vis-a-vis Jains, and that is called Tirthankar. Now the question is, what is this word? Jina is also called Tirthankar. So the word Jain comes, the people who follow Jina are Jains. Jina is the one who has attained infinite knowledge. He knows how to get moksha. But they're also called Tirthankar. What do you mean by Tirthankar? Now, Tirthankar is the one who is like a bridge, in the world of sorrow and the world of pain. He is the one who is the bridge between you and salvation. You and salvation. Basically, the equivalent to this would be called fords. Fords. In geographical terms, fords, not fjords, but fords are when there is a water body and there is, because of silt building, there's a certain type of area which is shallow through which you can cross a water body. That is called a ford. So basically, Tirthankara is like that ford, or is a bridge basically. He's a mediator, is a bridge who can take you across the world of sorrow. So you see here again, Tirthankar is another word used for Jina. It's a ford builder. One who builds fords or bridges that helps people cross the ocean of suffering. A ford is a shallow place with good footing in a river or a stream so as to allow it for crossing. Now, this is the only place where you need to actually understand what is the terminology. Tirthankar Jainism. Jina Setu, if you want to say. Yes, Setu is a very good word. Perfect. So, very simply, Jina is a word. I am the Jina. I have infinite knowledge. I know how you can clear UPSC. So, I will, if you follow me, you become the Jain. So Jina is the person who has attained infinite knowledge and knows how to get moksha. If you follow that person, you become the Jain. But I am also the Tirthankar, the Setu, the ford builder, the bridge. In the world of misinformation and Wikipedias, I am the one who will tell you how to cross history vis-a-vis from going from one side to the other and how you clear the examination. Tirthankar and Jina are the same exact thing. Same exact thing. Two terms are used, but Jainism is actually much more complicated than Buddhism when it comes to its origin. If you understand the terminologies, I want to discuss the origin. Can we discuss the origin? Because if you understand these terminologies, there's nothing here. There's nothing here generally. It's just about understanding the term. Same thing, Jina Tirthankar. Now, who was the founder of Buddhism? And Jina is one person. Buddha. And Buddha was the one who gave the philosophy also, and was the one who spread it also. And then in a way, the Sangha is also related to Buddha. So the institutionalization of religion all revolves around Buddha. But Jainism is different. I'll tell you how. There's a difference between who started Jain philosophy and who institutionalized Jain philosophy. See, it is believed the one who we have to discuss is Mahavira. Vardhaman Mahavir is the most important personality when it comes to Jainism. But basically, he is a Jina, he is a Tirthankar, but he is not the first one. He is the 24th Tirthankar. Basically, it is believed that before Mahavira, there have been 23 others who were Jina and Tirthankars. And the origin of Jainism and Jain philosophy is Rishabhnath. On the other hand, Mahavira is the one who's the 24th one, and he believed that the 25th is coming, but nobody came. So therefore, he is the one who started Jain religion, which is he institutionalized Jain philosophy into Jain religion. So in the examination, please pay attention to what they're asking. The origin of Jain philosophy is in Rishabhnath. However, Mahavira is the last Tirthankar who was there, and he is the one who started Jain religion. So the word philosophy means Rishabhnath, and the word religion means Mahavira. See, I have a list of the Tirthankars. You do not need to learn it. Do not learn. Rishabhnath is the one who started it. Thereafter, there have been 23 of them. Last is Vardhaman Mahavira. Between him and him, Jainism remained a philosophy. But the problem is that the historical background, the historical story, the historical place, their origin, their birth, we don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about them. They come one after the other, in a way reincarnating each other. But we do not know about anybody from Rishabhnath. We know that he's the first one. We have no information about any of them more than little bit about, for example, Parsavnath. And we have Nami and Nemi. These are two similar. You have to remember these four names. That's it. Rishabhnath, Nami, Nemi, Parsavnath, and Vardhaman. Very simply, the historicity of all of them is not clear. Why nobody came after Mahavira? That is the wrong question you're asking me. You have to go and ask a Jain monk why that happened. So, very simply, in a way, Buddhist philosophy, I'll rather ask you a simple question. Which is older, Buddhist philosophy or Jain philosophy? Jain philosophy. because it precedes Buddha way early than anything. It's believed that the first reference to Rishabhnath and all is in the Vedic period. Now, which is earlier? Jainism religion, Buddhism religion? Here the answer is both are contemporary to each other. Buddha and Mahavira is believed to have operated in the same period. So religion wise, they are both 6th century BC. But philosophy wise, Jainism is a bit older. You getting my point? Religion wise. Philosophy wise, there's no doubt. Philosophy wise, there's no doubt. Philosophy wise, straight away, it is Jainism. Religion wise, it is 6th century BC because maybe Jainism would have survived previously. But Jainism did not become a religion before 6th century BC. And see, this is the point if you try to dig in a little bit deeper. If these 24s exist or not, we don't know. But maybe this was a tactic to show vis-a-vis Buddhism that Jainism is earlier or older. Not to disrespect or undercut the whole concept itself. It could be a tactic. So try to remember it like this, that Jainism portrays and projects that Tirthankars existed even before Buddha. However, Jainism as a religion only exists after 6th century BC. Philosophy and concept is there, but maybe it is only Mahavira who wanted to make it into a religion. So the origin of Jainism as a philosophy is older than Buddhism. Origin of Jainism is at the same point of time with Buddhism when it comes to religion. Are we clear about this contradiction? Because a lot of students get confused here. A lot of students get confused here. And nobody really is able to explain this concept. The point is the difference between philosophy and religion. That's the only difference. Now, the historicity of all the Tirthankara is not easy to ascertain. Neminath may have belonged to the Gujarat sector. Parsavnath, builders, remember it like that, lived in Benares. We only know about Vardhaman Mahavir quite a lot. There are symbols which are linked to these Tirthankars through which the Jain temples have all these symbols to represent all the 24 Tirthankars. But you don't have to learn that. You can remember just that Mahavira is represented to the lion. And that is why lion is used quite a lot. Now, we just need to know the following about Vardhaman Mahavir, and then we'll go into the Jain philosophy itself. Born around the same time, again, the historicity of the birth and death is always very questionable. In the Kundagrama sector in Vaishali, to again Kshatriya of the Gantrika clan, and his father's name was Siddharth and mother's Trishala. And for the love of God, this is a different Siddharth. There can be two different people with different names or similar names. So Buddha is not the father of Mahavira. Please, I beg you, don't do that. Because I've got these emails also. Sir, how can you say that Siddharth was born later? Because Siddharth is the father of Mahavira. See, there can be two people with the same name in different periods. Right? So Siddharth is a different Siddharth. And mother Trishala. Married at the same age, close to 29-30. He at the age of 30 leaves, wanders for 12 years and attains the supreme knowledge and becomes the Jina under the Sal tree near Muzaffarpur. Next 30 years, he will preach his doctrine, which I will tell you what the doctrine is. And Kosala, Magha, Champa, Mithila, same area in which Buddha was very active. And his followers were called the Nirgrantha. Basically, there are followers of all 24. His followers are called Nirgrantha. And he will later die in Pava near Rajgir in you can see 468. That was 486. Very close to each other again. And the way he died was a very holy act, which is called in Jainism, which is called Salekhana, which is what we call as voluntary euthanasia, which is that you starve yourself to death. And that is a form of their cleansing, and which I'm coming to, wherein Jainism is a very difficult religion to follow, specifically for monks. Can I now go into Jain philosophy? Okay. Now, Jainism and Jain philosophy was never prescribed by, very rarely prescribed by political leaders. To follow Jainism is very difficult, and to be a monk is even more difficult. So Jainism is not very flexible on things. Buddhism was flexible, that is why it was followed by a lot of people and a lot of rulers also. Their first most important concept is that you have to trust the jina, be it anything. And that is why they have their own three ratnas, the three gems, which is you have to write the right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. You have to have faith in your jina. You have to know his knowledge and the right knowledge which he gives. And you have to conduct yourself very strictly. But why did basically, no, only Mahaviras are called Nirgrantha? Why does basically Jainism not be followed by most of the Kshatriyas? Is because of this. Which are called the Panchavrata, Mahavratas. And there are Anuvratas also, which are basically diluted form for layman followers, or the followers of the Jains itself. But Jainism was uncompromising on violence. Be it anything, you cannot compromise on violence. You cannot do violence. Ahimsa is everything for them. But if you look at the Panchavratas or the Panch Mahavratas of the Jain monks, it is even more difficult than over what the Buddhists fought over Theravada and Mahasangika. Never injure anybody. Never utter any falsehood, not even one line. Can't lie. Cannot take something which is not your given, which is steal. Have to have a celibate life, cannot marry, and cannot call anything your own. But if you follow these, you can automatically understand that you will never be able to become a politician. Never lie, and you become a king or become a politician. That can actually never be the case itself. Violence and deception and manipulation and taking something from someone else is the job of the king itself. So Jainism was something which was after Chandragupta Maurya, nobody really actually took it as the leader. People followed it. For the Vaishya community, it was very good because it is only asking you to do your job and don't worry about anything else. You do your job in the right way. Don't steal, and be very clear about what is yours and what is not yours. So for a commercial person, ethics is important. Ethics is important. So if you are doing your honest work, you are all clear. That is basically why Jainism was very popular amongst certain communities of commercial classes and merchants. Do your good work, end of story. The monks cannot marry. It does not apply. This is a Mahavrata. It's not an Anuvrata. Anuvrata are diluted one for laymen followers. I'll come to that. Now, the biggest point, there are 2 points which makes Jainism very different from Buddhism. Is that first, Jains for it, see, understand, Mahavratas are taken by monks. Celibacy is something which is even prescribed in Hinduism for monks. So it's not out of the box. It's just that when it comes to ahimsa and when it comes to lying, it is very specific to Buddhist, to Jain philosophy. But what is even more specific to Jain philosophy is two things. Jains believe that before you became a Jain itself, you did a lot of karma. And for them, karma is basically a bad thing. Everything which you did, karma is a sin, and inner purification is something which is very important for them, which we call as the concept of self purification, self penance it is called. Meaning the more you will in a way cleanse yourself via self penance, via self suffering. The word self suffering is also used. Self suffering is you cleansing yourself from the karma. And this is again which makes it very, very hard to follow, that Jainism is about self hurt. So Saleh Khan is what? You die, but you die of starving. You take samadhi. And for them, that is very, very important. But what makes Jainism even more interesting is, according to Jainism, everything, every object in this universe has a soul. And therefore, you cannot hurt even microscopic organisms. And that is why you've seen that Jain monks wear, most of them wear, out of only one sect does not wear mupattis. Even before COVID-19, they used to wear what are called masks, because they used to believe that if they inhale air, in air they take microorganisms, and therefore they are in a way killing them. And they divide the whole world in different areas. For example, ahimsa is very important, but it is the first vow. Ahimsa is something as a vow which is taken by both the monk and the ordinary follower, which is that I will not do ahimsa. But there's a very strict standard for the monks and lower standard for Mahavrata, Anuvrata. According to Jains, everything around you can be divided into one, which is the godly sense, which is Deva, then Manushya, which is us, then you have hell beings, which is Narki, and animals and plants, which is Triyancha. Triyancha, be it Narki, be it Manushya, be it God. Everything has a soul. So animals and plants cannot be hurt until unless they fall in a certain sense faculty. Sense faculty means you have 5 senses. So very simply, if you are a layman follower, you can avoid, for a standard follower, you can follow, or you can only avoid harming beings with 2 or more senses. But for a renunciant, any single sense being needs to also be not done. So for example, if a animal has more than 2 senses, you can't kill it. That is why Jains eat plants, because they have single sense, but they don't have more than 2. But animals, they are proper vegetarians. The point hell beings means that basically microscopic organisms. The point I'm trying to argue here is, before we go to the subsects and Digambara and Shwetambar, is very straightforward. Buddhist philosophy is very flexible. It's like harm if don't harm. I'll discuss that when I'll discuss Dhamma. However, when you talk about Jainism is very hard to follow, because self-purification is a very, very, very important thing. Over and above that, ahimsa is uncompromisable. And see, in the examination, and this is a very standard point I'm telling you, this year a very simple question came. As soon as you see the word soul, everything has a soul, cannot hurt this, it is Jainism. Because Jainism gives everything a soul, and then the monks cannot hurt everyone. On the other hand, the layman can hurt or can kill, can do hinsa on less than 2 cents, what we call as beings in that regard. So I am not going to discuss what plants they can eat and cannot eat, but the logic behind that is this only. Non-living beings having soul is something as a gray area. Is a gray area because in the examination they will write every object has a soul, and then the physicist in everybody comes out, they mean matter, non-matter. Non-matter cannot have soul, but in Jain philosophy they use it as an open-ended term. Every object has a soul according to them. Living or non-living is your and mine understanding. For them it is based on sense faculty. So I am not the one to contradict Jainism here. simple straightforward point is, does every object have a soul? Jainism, the answer is yes. Are we clear with regards to this? Yes? Okay. Now there are, fortunately for us, only two subsects in Jainism. Two subsects in Jainism, or two groups in Jainism. One are called Digambar and the other one are called Shwetambar. Now you can remember it by the song Dige Dige Ambar Pe, because Dige Ambar means sky. Right? There's a song called Dige Dige Ambar. Remember it like that. Digambar Shwetambar origin is very straightforward. It is believed that in 6th century BC, in and around Magad, there was a major famine and drought which came. In order to survive, one set of Jains went to south, one remained back or stayed back in north. So it is believed that Mahavira himself, what is senses? What is one and more? Anjali, you're using one of your senses: touch, eye, that's a sight, hearing, and smelling and taste. All of these are senses. So if a person has more than one, it is living and it has senses. That is the concept. Okay. Now, it is believed that Mahavira and all of the Tirthankars before him were actually naked, used to be nude. So when they were not split, they were nude. They did not wear any clothes. But the ones who stayed in the north started to wear white clothes, and they're called Shwetambar. And the one who went to south are called Digambar. They believe that the sky itself is their cloth. So the only difference between Shwetambar, Digambar is actually the ones who wear clothes and don't wear clothes. Again, it is a matter of relevance. You tell me in which Shwetambar or Digambar a woman can become a monk. You tell me. Shwet means cloth, white cloth. Obviously Shwetambar. See, again, they are trying to remain relevant. So the only difference between Digambar and Shwetambar is clothing. Both traditions know that Mahavira followed the concept of being naked. Digambars must renunciate everything, and that person should only have a small broom to sweep where he sits, and a kamandu, which is a lota for basic toilet practices. Shwetambar believe that while wearing white robes, they believe that nudity is a practice which has become obsolete, and therefore it is unnecessary. And for the layman followers, we need to also dilute the basic concepts. So Shwetambar would be close to Hinayanic Buddhism or Mahayanic Buddhism. Come on, tell me. Would it be closer to Hinayanic Buddhism or Mahayanic Buddhism? In its approach. Mahayanic, wherein it is trying to remain relevant. Mahayanic Buddhism is trying to remain Buddhism relevant, and here Shwetambar is trying to remain relevant because yes, nudity is accepted within Jainism, but they say that we can wear a white robe and that will not dilute our Mahavratas and Anuvratas and the different vratas which we have. So this is called assimilation and evolution. Every religion evolves. So whilst in Buddhism you have Hinayanic, Mahayanic, Vajrayanic, and what we call as and Theravada, here you have only two: Shwetambar, Digambar. Shwet means cloth, Dig Ambar. Ambar means sky. Are we clear with regards to the difference between Shwetambar, Digambar? Then the last thing I have to discuss with you is the subsects, and their class is over. Yes. Mahayanic is contemporary. They are actually contemporary to each other. Yes, Shwetambar and Mahayanic, Hinayanic, Shwetambar, Digambar, all are contemporary to each other. Why they practiced nudity? They were like, every possession needs to be renounced. Everything which you have needs to be renounced, which means clothes also. Okay. Shravani, if I make a table, it is going to be what? One, it will say wear clothes, other say don't wear clothes. That's it. I'll write it down for here. Don't wear clothes, wear clothes. This is the only difference between them. So I don't need a table to actually write this one point. Okay. Now, Now come the subsets. Now Digambar has, which is non-wearing clothes, have two basic difference. One is called the core group, which is called the Mool Sang, and thereafter there are three which are the later offshoots. So you have the Digambar, and they're very easy. Here you have Mool Sang. Mool means core, and you have Terapanthi, Taranpanthi, and Bispanthi. This is the original group. This is a later offshoots. But what would be common to all of them? Will they all wear clothes or not? What will be all common to all of them? Okay, no clothes. Very good. Perfect. No clothes. They are all similar that way. Thereafter, there is more complexity in Shwetambar. In Shwetambar, there's a division between three. One are called Sthanak Vasi, Murti Pujak, and Terapanthi. Now, this is very important point you need to understand, that Terapanthi are in both. But what would be the difference between this Terapanthi and this Terapanthi? What would be the difference between these two? Very good. Perfect. So in Terapanthi, some of them wear clothes, some of them don't wear clothes. So they do not wear and they wear. This is the difference between these two. So not very difficult. But now you can see one more thing, that the name itself tells you. See, under Shwetambar, Sthanakvasis worship the saints or monks. Sthanak, who are in front of you. They worship the idols of Tirthankars. As you can say, Murti Pujak. Murti Pujak. But there's one more difference. Sthanakvasi believe in praying to saints rather than into a temple. They wear a mupatti near their mouth. They do not wear a mupatti, and they rather keep idols of Tirthankars. Terapanthi are again the ones who pray to saints and wear a mupatti. So you see, the major point here is mask, no mask, mask, and worship saints or monks. Now you will ask me, what is the difference between Therapanthi and Sthanakvasi? I have already seen Vedji's comment. The difference is some of the Therapanthi are also nude, but all of Sthanakvasi are not nude. Get the difference? Therapanthi is an intersection. They either will have everything, which is white robe also and mupatti, or they'll have nothing. While Sthanakvasi, they have mask and clothes. So you can't make out a difference between a Sthanakvasi and a Therapanthi on the ground. Only if you look at the whole community, you will be seeing Therapanthi, little bit of nude, little bit of non-nude. Are we clear? I'll give a Venn diagram and it will actually make sense. Can I make that Venn diagram and we can end the class? Okay. See, it's very easy, very easy. Clothing, mask, idols of infant cars. See, all of the Gambar are basically outside this whole concept itself. It is only for Shwetambar. In Shwetambar, clothing plus mask. Clothing plus mask. Thereafter, idol worship and clothing. This is Murti Pujak. Thereafter, Therapanthi is a little bit of a gray area. There is one Therapanthi which should be here, but there's also one Therapanthi which is only here. No, not even here. They're totally outside this system, which is no clothes, no idols, no mask. This is basically the Digambar one. So are we clear with regards to how they are placed with each other? I don't need to make a Venn diagram though, but basically this is a better way of representation. Mask, no mask, mask. Therapanthi, Murti Pujak, Sthanakvasi. Remember, from Murti, you should know that it is idol. So you will understand the Sthanakvasi also. Are we clear with regards to this? Yes? Okay. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll talk about the two councils. Nothing really to be discussed here. That one first gen council happened at Patliputra, and they wrote 12 angs, basically 12 books, under a person called Sthulbhahu in 3rd century BC. And the second council is going to happen in Valabhi, 5th century CE. Exactly how many years later? 3rd century BCE and 5th century CE. How many years are there? Digambars mostly are mixed. They will mostly go for the saints and monks and certain times Mahavir also. 800 years. Very good. So after 800 years, this is BC and CE. So 300 there, 500 here. 800 years later, they will meet at Valabhi and they will write 12 books were there. They will write 12 sub books. And that's it. So you will have first Jain council in Patliputra. That is what you have to remember. And under Stulbhahu, and later Valabhi is what we call as the second council. 12 books were written, 12 sub books were written. Digambars, Yash, are divided. They can also go for saints. They can also go for the Mool Sang goes for the saint, the Mahavira, but not idols, but Mahavira. And some of them also go for saints in that regard. Right? Okay. First Jain council is, no, it's not that it is Digambar or Shwetambar. First, this is for Jain community generally. Both come together, the Digambars and Shwetambars in that regard. So it's not like that it's separate to each other. Okay. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll talk about spread of Jainism. Again, 5-minute discussion. But from tomorrow, we are back to the political history. We have to discuss Alexander's invasion. We discuss Mauryas. Thereafter, we'll discuss post-Maurya and Gupta, post-Gupta. Now we're back to political next week with tomorrow's class itself. Very importantly, this is the only module which is religion. Don't complicate it. Use the PPT, that is more than enough. Don't have to go into too much detail. If you will control yourself, you will answer all questions. Don't try to Google and read multiple articles because you don't have to. And when it comes to previous year questions, we will do it tomorrow. We've covered Buddhism, Jainism. After covering Maurya, I will be taking 3 to 5, 6 questions. Not all, because still a lot of is left. The point is, till this point, all previous questions I will do with you tomorrow. Because Buddhism, Jainism is a place from which a lot of questions come. I had to complete till this point to do previous year. Okay? Perfect. How and when did concept of salvation develop? That is within Vedic Brahmanism itself. Yes, Vedic. Perfect. So thank you. Thank you for coming the next morning to Diwali to be live with me in class. Thank you. Take care. Have till I think till Wednesday we have different forms of pujas which are happening. Best of luck for that. Happy Govardhan Puja, Bhai Dooj and all. I will see you tomorrow, same time. And remember, don't have to complicate it. It's straightforward. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. I know that the weekly test is not actually loading. I'll get it sorted. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.